From Montana's news leader, this is the MTN 530 News.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Russ Riesinger. Another record day of COVID cases in Montana. One Billings hospital having to make extra room for all the sick patients. The virus also taking a toll physically and mentally on healthcare workers. We'll get to that in just a minute. First, though, more than 1,200 new cases of the coronavirus reported in Montana today. Butte-Silverbow had the highest count of new cases in the state with 171. Yellowstone County checked in with 71, putting the total case count at more than 8,600 for the county. Nearly half of those are still labeled as active. Montana also recorded 5 more deaths today, bringing the state's current COVID-related death toll to 510. Well, a passionate plea from the governor of Wyoming telling residents it's time to get serious about COVID-19.
And ask yourself, do you feel better today about what's going on in this state than you felt maybe in June or July or August when we were one of the lowest states for infection rates? We were one of 3 states that could have a state fair. We had a carnival going. Ask yourself, do you think we can do that now without running a risk on everything? Our capacities are overwhelmed. It's time that Wyoming woke up and got serious about what it's doing.
During a news conference at the state capitol this morning, Governor Gordon said the daily numbers for positive cases and hospitalizations spell trouble. Gordon said more restrictions are likely to be announced in the next week. He said it's time for people to quit being, quote, knuckleheads about the virus and for neighbors to help neighbors get through this. The state currently has just over 3,000 probable cases and 127 deaths. Billings Clinic is bringing in some more resources and making adjustments to deal with an increase in COVID-19 cases. The Montana Department of Disaster and Emergency Services sent a semi-load of supplies. The truckload has a 20-bed package, which also includes hospital room equipment and a 30-day supply of PPE. Montana National Guard members helped unload and set up the new capacity unit. Beds are set up in what were sleeping rooms for physicians on call and surgical staff offices. Billings Clinic Foundation President Jim Duncan says the rooms had been set up for preoperative care and have the equipment needed for patients. The new rooms will be used for non-COVID positive patients. The hospital putting 2 patients in some of the rooms.
And we've been able to revert some of our rooms to that in a very safe manner. We have a checklist of things to make sure it's safe to put 2 patients together. And the patients have actually been extremely welcoming of it, as far as we're just happy for the care. And they remember, a lot of them, days when they did have a bunkmate, if you will. So that's one of the ways in which we've increased our capacity.
Well, the doctors on call will now rest at nearby hotels, and since there are no gatherings, offices will be set up at the Mary Ellis Fortin Health Conference Center. As you might suspect, more patients coming in sick with COVID is already adding to an already stressful situation for hospital workers. I talked with Dr. Neil Koo, the lead epidemiologist, and Nancy Iverson, the director of patient safety and infection control at the Billings Clinic.
Well, there's many people that don't stop working. It's every day. We are exceptionally strained. We are making room for all the sick patients. But I've been a nurse going on my 37th year, and I've never seen anything like this. This is real. Patients are very sick, and they need very high level and very specialized care.
Not only just with the extra higher volume patients, but also that, several, we have a number of our healthcare workers who come down with COVID-19 or been exposed. So that adds an extra strain on our workforces. But we all try to do the best as we can to take care, provide the best care that we have for all our patients.
Well, both Dr. Koo and Nurse Iverson say they are concerned that the number of people getting seriously ill with COVID will jump even more as a result of indoor gatherings over the holidays. COVID-19 continues to spread throughout the state, and the Montana State Prison is among the hardest to be hit. The Montana National Guard was sent to the prison late last month to provide assistance, and their roles are now expanding. MTN's John Amy has the story.
Members of the Montana Army National Guard have extended their tour of duty at the Montana State Prison due to many staff members in quarantine from the coronavirus. As of Thursday, the Montana Department of Corrections reports 136 staff members at the prison in Deer Lodge have tested positive for COVID-19. Also, 323 inmates have tested positive for the virus. In late October, Governor Steve Bullock ordered members of the National Guard to help with duties at the prison because of staffing shortages. The soldiers were initially supposed to work at the prison until November 8th. However, because of increased number of staff members in quarantine, 36 members of the National Guard will extend their service at the prison until November 19th. The soldiers, who are not armed, will continue in the distribution of mail, laundry, inmate counting, and feeding. In Deer Lodge, John Amy, MTN News.
All right, turning to Chief Forecaster Bob McGuire. Bob, snow is falling in western Montana, and here it'll be the wind that's whipping.
Oh, yeah, it's just screaming at us right now over in Livingston. Let me show you what we have. These are our current wind conditions. Now, the numbers that are in blue, those are the peak wind gusts just the last hour. So over there in Livingston, their current wind is 49 miles per hour, but their peak wind gust this last hour was 62 miles per hour. Over in Sheridan, they're at 38 miles per hour, and their peak wind gust was 54 miles per hour. So, yeah, this stuff is really screaming at us. And as you can see, the threat board really starting to fill up. We got a lot of high wind warnings across much of the mountains, right? Basically anywhere from like up to 65 miles per hour from Harlingen to Big Timber. Also on the Beartooth foothills, we're looking at maybe 60 to 80 mile per hour winds there. And the Cody foothills is up to 75 miles per hour. In the Absaroka Mountains, maybe up to a foot of snow in the western range, up to a half a foot in the eastern range. And then you get all the other windy conditions across much of the state as well, especially all across the mountains, winds gusting to 60 miles per hour, basically up and down the entire length of the Rocky Mountain chain. And then you still have this. Look at all the snow. Winter weather advisory ranging anywhere from 1 to 6 inches to maybe 10 inches. In some cases, we're looking at blowing and drifting snow. Beartooth Mountains and also over into Yellowstone Park could see up to 15 inches of snow in the southwestern corner of the park. So very busy night tonight in the weather, especially out in western Montana. But here in Billings, just kind of breezy conditions. We'll chat about it in a few more minutes.
All right, thank you, Bob. The COVID-19 pandemic continues to wreak havoc on college sports. Today's newest blow, there will be no conference basketball for the MSUB Yellow Jackets this season. Casey Conlon has more on that.
Normally, the Jackets would have already kicked off their basketball seasons by now. The first games are usually played around November 1st. Now, the pandemic had pushed most collegiate programs back, but today's news still a surprise, with MSUB included in 6 of 10 GNAC teams who opted to cancel their entire conference slates. It wasn't unanimous, which MSUB Athletic Director Krista Montague had hoped, but a majority today made the hard decision a necessary one.
We really didn't know till today, actually, officially who was going to be out and who was going to be in. So the decision really was based on what's best for our institution and our student athletes.
The Jackets still might find a way to play some games after January 7th, likely against in-state competition.
Obviously, we're the only Division II school in the state, so we realize it won't be NCAA Division II competition, but there are other local teams that, you know, we're optimistic might have an open night or an open weekend that might be able to play.
Every single MSUB athlete has now had a season taken away from them, from last spring through fall and now into winter. So Montague's new goal is making sure her spring athletes don't get punished twice.
If we lose spring, that's going to be 2 years that those student athletes have not competed. And, you know, it gets really challenging, obviously, the longer this drags out. But, you know, we just have to be resilient and stay strong and, you know, with keeping the health and safety at the forefront, that's what's going to continue to drive our decisions.
In Billings, Casey Conlon, MTN Sports.
All right, thank you, Casey. Spring sports are slated to begin competition as soon as February. Up next on tonight's MTN 530 News here on Q2, giving thanks, the Yellowstone County community comes together to make sure all of our frontline workers feel the love during these challenging times. We'll take you there coming up next. Then a little later in sports, championship dreams on the line tonight. We'll check in with Scott Breen. He'll be getting us ready for West and Bozeman as the Golden Bears look to remain perfect